strategy has to continue until our rights have been reclaimed.
Lowell, proud resident of downtown Lowell, and a public health practitioner. I've taught and advocated for sexual and reproductive health for my entire career, albeit short career so far. And like you, I am devastated by Friday's Supreme Court decision in Dobbs overturning Roe v. Wade. The magnitude of this loss is hard to comprehend. I'm 30 years old. I've never known a time without the constitutional right to abortion. This rollback of 50 years of rights and precedent deeply jeopardizes the health and well-being of all Americans. Abortion is health care. Say it with me. Abortion is health care. One more time. Abortion is health care. Without access to safe abortion, forced pregnancies and forced births will lead to increases in maternal mortality, something the United States already performs abysmally in. We will see increases in anxiety and mental health conditions, reductions in educational attainment, forcing young people to drop out of high school and college. We will see disruptions in economic progress and the progress we've made to close the gender equity gap. We will see increases in intimate partner violence and the widening of racial inequities and injustices. This space, which you are all here participating in today, is a space to process and grieve, be in community with like-minded individuals, to feel our power, and get inspired to take action. We hope you leave this space today with at least one thing you can do to make concrete change. I want to thank Sally Coulter, Sally, for initiating the planning of this event. In just 2 days, the turnout is incredible, and we're so grateful for all of you for being here. And for everybody that Sally dutifully organized in a group chat to pull this off, Bev, Judith, Carrie, Councilor Janess, and so many others. And of course, to my favorite state rep, she's my state rep, Rep. Vanna Howard. The Office of Rep. Howard is a co-sponsor of today's event, in addition to the Lowell Democratic City Committee, of which I'm a proud member, the Solidarity Lowell, and the Center for Hope and Healing, based here in Lowell. So give it up for our event co-sponsors. Before I turn it over to our first speaker, I want to remind you of two things. One is that it is hot. Please hydrate. There's water and sunscreen on the table sort of behind me, beside the monument. And also I want to remind you that despite Friday's decision, abortion remains legal here in Massachusetts. We have many of our elected officials to thank for that. They codified Roe by passing provisions of the Roe Act back in December 2020, and we are eternally grateful for that. So thank you to our state representatives. And on that note, I want to turn it over to our first speaker and our co-host in planning and in the event, State Representative Vanna Howard.
This week revealed what many of us thought they were. From the time they perjured themselves in their Senate confirmation hearings.
Liars! Liars!
This majority this week thought it could force women back to a time before Roe just by the stroke of a pen. They must be from another planet. But we're right here. We know that the overwhelming majority of this nation will not go back to a time like that where a woman's reproductive rights did not exist. We will together undo this decision. And keep these inalienable rights for ourselves, our families, and in consultation with our medical providers. Let me be clear. We are the backlash, the tidal wave. Here and in every state and locality across this country. But you don't have to take my word for it. Wait until you hear from the other speakers that are here today. So I would like to introduce to my next speaker, which is Dr. Julie Johnston.
I'm Julie Johnston, and I am your neighbor, a mother, and a medical director for HealthQ, your local nonprofit. Right. We're all different sizes here. You're a local nonprofit sexual and reproductive health clinic. And I am here to say that abortion is safe, it is normal health care, and it is not going away. Work to ensure that people get the care they need no matter what. We will continue to provide abortions and vasectomies and contraception among many other crucial reproductive health services. Since the healthcare landscape changed in Texas last September with SB 8, we have been providing abortions for people who now have to travel for their health care. And we expect that number to rise as the individual state laws go into effect. We are lucky, as the speaker mentioned before, that Massachusetts has already done a significant amount of work to ensure healthcare decisions in Massachusetts are still between a patient and a clinician, as they should be. I am here for you as a doctor dedicated to maintaining access to safe abortion and willing to fight for this right for all. Our hearts are with our friends and families that had their right to bodily autonomy stripped away on Friday. There are pregnant people whose lives are in danger due to pregnancy right now, and the Supreme Court just removed their safety net. Outrage, grief, disbelief, and an urge to change all of the hearts and minds have been some of my feelings this weekend. There are so many wrongs that need to be righted. Roe was never perfect, and access to healthcare, including abortion, has always been difficult for many. This country has always been unfair to women, BIPOC persons, immigrants, sexual and gender minorities. Adrienne Marie Brown, a queer Black thick activist, writes, "Things are not getting worse, they are getting uncovered. We must continue to hold each other tight and pull back the veil. In this place of privilege, it is our duty to fight for the rights of all, include and step out of the way for the voices of those that this movement has not centered on, but have been impacted by systemic inequities and injustices. Now is the time to build a better, more inclusive movement and fight like hell in the political arena." Unlike our government, our staff at HealthQ operates with the uncompromising belief that each and every person has the right to control their body and their life. We are here to give you a voice and empower your decisions. We will support you, we will guide you, and we will provide you with the information that you need to make the best decision for you. Because you know what is best, not a rigged Supreme Court. We will continue to provide access to safe care for Massachusetts residents and for all of those who will now be passing through. We will see people in person and by telehealth. Abortion is still legal, protected, and safer than giving birth. And our new tool, abortion pills, are definitely here to stay. Thank you.
DeGeorgis, the Executive Director of Lowell Center for Hope and Healing.
So as you just heard, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Lowell DeGeorgis. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm the Executive Director at the Center for Hope and Healing. We provided services here in Lowell and Greater Lowell for almost 50 years, 46 years, for survivors of sexual violence and to prevent sexual violence. We've spoken in support of laws to protect survivors, immigration laws, LGBTQ rights and trans protections, and we've spoken against racism. I could have never have imagined I'd be standing here making these comments today. Who would have imagined that we'd have to be out here in this heat protesting against losing rights that we've had for 49 years in this country? I could never have imagined that. On behalf of the Center for Hope and Healing, I want to say, oh, nice sound. Backstabbing, dirty, I didn't say it. We just want to say at the Center for Hope and Healing, we're strongly opposed to any action, legislative or otherwise, that limits a person's rights to access a full range of safe, effective, reproductive health care services, including abortion care. We believe consent and bodily autonomy are fundamental rights no person, law, or government should violate. Thank you. These beliefs are integral to our mission and our work. Did you know that 3 million women experience rape-related pregnancies in our country, according to the CDC? So carrying a pregnancy to term is not a safe option for all people due to intimate partner violence, rape and sexual assault, health disparities, a person's medical history or complications that may elevate their risk for maternal morbidity. And we know that rape is the most underreported crime in our country. So there are many more people out there who cannot speak up against what's happening. Uh-oh, here we go. In many communities, organizations like CHH are the only service available to provide counseling on issues of sexual assault and reproductive care. We see people as young as 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 who are having to make these decisions, people, right? Who they're representing as the folks getting abortions are not the people we see on a regular basis. These choices should be made freely between a patient and medical provider. As Dr. Julie said, in the context of the patient's health, safety, and family dynamics. Even survivors who are not currently pregnant can and are impacted by this news. I promise you that our hotlines and our calls and our web-based services will start going through the roof as of Friday, right? Because it represents a violation of bodily autonomy. And it creates another economic and racial inequity. People who have money to go to other states and come here to Massachusetts will. Right. People who don't, where do they go? Right? It will create another racial class divide and pandemic upon a pandemic. I'm very grateful, so grateful to Massachusetts legislators like Vanna Howard. Where is she? State Rep. We are lucky we are not one of the trigger states that would be impacted by an instant overturn of Roe v. Wade. We applaud also Governor Baker, who instituted executive orders to strengthen our protections here in our state. Yeah! This is such a quiet and shy group. I love it. Also, just want to say, we believe there's additional concern that this decision is just the first in a series of actions that will limit access to reproductive care, to LGBTQ rights, and other things which disproportionately impact vulnerable and at-risk communities. 13 states have passed already trigger laws or abortion bans that go into effect immediately. Other states have laws pending to protect their abortion restrictions. Okay, what can we do? We're angry. Are we angry? Yeah! Woo, that was powerful. Are we angry about this? Yes! Are we gonna let this stay as it is? No! That's right, right on. First, what can we do? Hell no. First and foremost, please share accurate information. Like was said before, many people hear this news and they think, even in Massachusetts, that abortion is illegal. So on our socials, with our friends and family, share accurate information, because people don't always have it. We assume they do, but they don't. Second, send people to us and other organizations if needed. Our hotline number is 1-800-542-5212. You can find us online. Send people to us for information, for access. 3, work with organizations in trigger law states. Have you seen things online like if you want to go buy plants, you can come, I'll take you to get plants. Right? You want to go camping, I'll take you to go camping. Right? Because I want to end by saying this. This fight is not over. Many are saying that other civil rights will be stripped away next. I want to say, may be the case, but this fight is far from over. We have fought before. We have carried people across picket lines and across state lines to get help. Whoever worked in Planned Parenthood during the time of protest, you're heroes. During the time when people couldn't even access Planned Parenthood. We have this fight in us, people. You're here because you have the social justice fight in your DNA, right? We are with you. Center for Hope and Healing is with you. And together, we will not only survive, ultimately, we will see the arc of justice prevail. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa, and for the Center for Hope and Healing for all of your work. Up next, we have Jacqueline Friedman, the founder of Educate Us, an amazing organization you should learn more about, and co-chair of the Healthy Youth Coalition, fighting for the Healthy Youth Act, an incredibly important bill I hope you leave here knowing more about today.
Hello. What an incredible, energizing crowd. I have to start with a confession, which is I didn't really want to do this. When Jamie texted me yesterday, I was flat in my bed. I've been flattened by this. We knew it was coming, but that does not make it less devastating. And I got this text and I was like, I don't know that I can go be inspiring. I don't know if I have it. And then I thought about a quote that I love, that I refer to often, from the author and philosopher Rebecca Solnit, who wrote an incredible book on the eve of the Iraq War called Hope in the Dark. And this is what she says about hope, which is that hope is not a feeling. Hope is not a lottery ticket, she says, that you can sit on the sofa and clutch, feeling lucky. It is an axe you use to break down doors in an emergency. Hope should shove you out the door because it will take everything you have to steer the future away from endless war, from the annihilation of the earth's treasures and the grinding down of the poor and marginal. To hope is to give yourself to the future, and that commitment to the future is what makes the present inhabitable. And so I say to you, if the present right now, like me, to you feels uninhabitable, give yourselves to the future, which you have by coming here, and together, let's produce hope. And that's what I want to talk to you about. We are so different. I love the age diversity here, the racial diversity here, the gender diversity here. I bet if I talked to 10 of you, you would tell me 10 really different stories about why you're here and what's bringing you here. I went to my first abortion rights protest 30 years ago when we were trying to get the Supreme Court to not hand down the Casey ruling. I was in college. And if you had told me then that we would be here 30 years later, I would have, I don't know, it would have been impossible to explain. First you'd have to explain that guy, that Donald Trump was president. Anyway, so we do all have one thing in common, and I feel confident in making this assumption. We all know that our bodies belong to us and us alone. I advisedly don't say that we all believe that, but instead that we know that. I saw a sign over here saying this is not up for debate, and like, it was over here somewhere. Yeah, because it's not a matter for debate. No law can take away 50 years of learning our own power and possibility. No ruling can strike down what we have already discovered to be fundamentally true, which is that we own us. The Supreme Court does not own us, we own us. And any institution that tries to deny the truth of our autonomy and freedom is just proving its own illegitimacy. So what do we do to produce hope in the face of that? Well, to paraphrase Dolly Parton, another great American, I advise you to find out who you are and do it for the movement, right? So if you're somebody who likes, yeah, I'm gonna say that's for us. If you're somebody who likes to bake, have a bake sale. If you're someone who likes to organize, make a protest, right? If you're somebody who likes to code, there is a digital defense fund for abortion protection, right? There is a role for you, whatever your heart loves to do and whatever your skill set is. Don't feel like everybody has to do the same thing. That is what they think, right? They think everyone has to be the same and do the same. Our strength is in our diversity. Our strength is in our individual, authentic autonomy and in celebrating that in community with each other. All of us together are stronger than all of us alone. When in doubt, if you're like, I don't know where to plug in, the thing I always do when I'm like not sure what to do is, how can I invest in building community care, right? How can I invest in making our communities stronger? Because the extremists rule by division and fear, and we're never going to be better than they are at division and fear. Our strength is in building community and connection. So you can never go wrong doing that. While you're building community and connection, I challenge you to make sure that you're ensuring that, as Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley says, the people who are closest to the pain should be closest to the power. So community connection doesn't mean we lead, right? It doesn't always mean we lead. And we have to find our moment. Sometimes following is actually a great thing. Leaders need followers. I want to lead for a minute and tell you about the Healthy Youth Act. I don't know who made this, but thank you. Is it Jamie? How many of you know about the Healthy Youth Act? Some people yes, some people no. Okay, the Healthy Youth Act is a bill that is currently before the Massachusetts House that would make sure that any sex education that is taught in this state is inclusive, is fact-based, teaches consent, teaches healthy relationships. Why am I talking to you about sex education at an abortion rally? I want you to imagine, as I wrote for WBUR on Friday, what if all of our leaders had good sex education? What if they all knew that women are co-equal people? What if they knew that an embryo the size of a lentil doesn't have a heart and therefore can't have a fracking heartbeat, right? Like, it starts by creating a community that knows what we need to know to respect not only our own but each other's autonomy and to build healthy relationships. We are so close to passing this. We have been trying for 11 years, yes, here in Blue, Massachusetts, to pass the Healthy Youth Act. The state Senate passed it in September on a near unanimous vote. We are 5 weeks left in the legislative session, and the House still has not brought it to the floor for a vote. What I'm imploring you to do is, before you leave, scan this little QR code if you can't do it now, and contact your representative and say, tell the speaker to bring the Healthy Youth Act to the floor for a vote. That is how we build in Massachusetts. It's going to keep reproductive rights safe for all. It is urgent, and it cannot wait for another legislative cycle. It cannot wait. Yeah. And I'm saying that if you are lucky enough to have Representative Howard as your representative, she's one of the lead sponsors of the bill in the House. So you should email her. You should email her and just say thanks. But in addition to working on sex education, pay attention to local elections. That's where our political power is built. Look at school board, look at local prosecutor races, right? Look at all of those local races matter so much, and you're going to hear from some local electeds who are either elected or running for office today, I know. And also go to massbeyondroe.com, and there's a whole platform there of how we can move this state forward, regardless of what those illegitimate rogue guys in Washington are saying. In the long haul, I'm going to only take a little more of your time. I just want to say this is a long haul fight, right? The right took almost 50 years to undo Roe, and they stayed with it, and it looked impossible when they started, but they didn't go, oh, it's impossible, I guess we're fucked. They didn't. They just built power slowly and steadily, starting at the local and state level. They built power, they built community, and they got what they wanted on Friday. I'm sorry to say it, but they did. We need to be more determined than they are, and that means don't expect an easy win, don't expect a quick fight, don't expect a quick reward. We need to be in it because we know it, because we believe it, and we will settle for nothing else no matter how long it takes. I want to close with a quote from the abolitionist Mariam Kaba, who says, "Please let this radicalize you rather than lead you to despair." And for those of you who think, radical, I'm not a radical, I just want to remind you that radical means root, right? So this means let's get down to the root of what's going on here, right? And to become, what? Patriarchy, absolutely, and white supremacy, both.
I've done abortions, I've had abortions, no big deal.
Yep, no big deal. We've got an abortion provider right here. Give her a hand. Amazing. Get down to the root and get rooted, because we know the deeper the roots, the bigger and stronger the tree, right? So show up like I did today in whatever shape you're in. Don't wait until you feel inspired. Don't wait until you feel powerful. Don't wait until you feel like you know what the answer is. There's plenty of people around with calls to action that you just have to show up and follow. You don't need to know all the answers. Just show up in whatever phase you're in, shape you're in. Rest when you can. Create community and connection when you can. Take time to just like make the joyful world we all want to live in it together in the future for like moments or hours when you can. And do the hard work of repairing the world when you can. Roe may not have been forever, but this defeat is not going to be forever either, and I will see you out there.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. We have the distinct privilege by being joined by all three of the Democratic candidates for Lieutenant Governor today. All three of whom are planning to speak. So first we're going to hear from State Representative Dr. Tammy Gavea, then Mayor Driscoll of Salem, and then Senator Eric Lesser.
Thanks everybody for the patience with the adjustment. It's really an honor and a privilege to be here with all of you, though I do wish that we didn't need to be here today in my hometown, the city of Lowell, Massachusetts. First and foremost, I of course want to thank again our organizers, Solidarity Lowell, Jamie and Sally, and of course Rep. Vanna Howard for getting us to here today so that we can stand and be in solidarity with each other. I'm a social worker by background and a doctor of public health, so I would be remiss if I didn't start by acknowledging that so many of us are feeling so many different feelings, whether we've had abortions or not, whether we just held the hand of a family or a partner who had an abortion, because that was the choice that was right for that person and for their family. Folks, we know that this decision, though, is not just about women's rights. It's about trans rights, LGBTQ rights, and the rights of our neighbors of color and anybody who has had their body touched without their consent. That is why so many of us are here today. You know, as these debates have been going on and we were seeing the signs that Roe would be overturned because of the nomination of the folks on the Supreme Court, the very far right radical wing of the Republican Party, I've been asking people, have you ever been touched without your consent? And the answer I get resoundingly from white, straight, cisgender, able-bodied men over and over again is, no. What are you talking about? That's never happened to me. But anytime I ask a woman, a trans person, an LGBTQ member of our community, I ask a person of color, sometimes ask children, a person with a disability, the answer over and over and over again is, yes, I have. It happens repeatedly. That is why we are here today. This is about bodily autonomy and everyone's right to show up in their communities, being their whole selves. The right to show up in their schools, their places of worship, their workplaces, in our halls of government. Being able to be your whole self with every single identity that you possess. every person has that right. I know we are furious, exhausted, grieving, sad, scared, and worried about the Supreme Court decisions, not just this decision, but multiple decisions that were handed down this past week. We know that these threaten every American resident's health, safety, and the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This week we saw the Supreme Court expand access to concealed weapons and throw into question long-held privacy rights. And then of course we know that on Friday they overturned Roe v. Wade, which had been the law of the land for 50 years. I'm 47 years old, so I've only known a life where Roe v. Wade was in existence. And as tired as I am, and I know that we can't quit, and I know that we won't. Since the Women's March, we have been building our political muscle to fight in Massachusetts for equity and justice, like transgender protections, banning conversion therapy, eliminating financial access to contraception, and enshrining abortion protections by passing the Roe Act last session. You all did that. You were part of getting these things passed. You have been flexing your political muscle for the last 5 years and before that. Yes, you all do deserve a round of applause for your work. And as a state representative, I have been flexing my muscle, and as your next lieutenant governor, I will continue to flex my muscle. That is why, thank you. That is why almost 2 months ago, I released my Declaration of Rights for equitable health, well-being, and dignity, because every person has the right to bodily autonomy in our state, in our country, and in our communities. We have been taking steps to ensure that our work accounts for the intersectional threats and violence against anybody, any person who is not white, male, straight, cisgender, able-bodied, or Christian. The Constitution and the Supreme Court have been there in the past to ensure civil rights and equal protections when culture, history, and states have failed to take protective action. But this week's rulings make it plainly obvious that our courts do not have our backs. And I am outraged that our fears are becoming reality, driven by the lies that threaten our ability to see ourselves and each other, and to see that our successes are wrapped up in the successes of our neighbors and their children. These lies spread by Trump Republicans have spread like wildfire to our legislatures, to the floors of Congress, and now the Supreme Court. And I'd like to point out a few of these lies, starting with the very first line of the Alito decision. I quote, "Abortion presents a profound moral issue on which Americans hold sharply conflicting views." Lies. Not a moral issue, a healthcare and an equal rights and a justice issue. And we don't have disagreement on abortion as a right for every person in our country. Also in the opinion, the majority concludes that the 14th Amendment does not protect the right to an abortion. It cites originalist views that threaten civil rights protections under the 14th Amendment, which was ratified in 1868. This takes us back, way back, before the 1950s to the 1800s. We have been fearing the 1950s, folks, but this is even worse. 1860s is when germ theory started to take hold. 1868 is before we discovered viruses, before women could vote, before Black and brown Americans were granted equal protections, just 3 years after the Civil War ended. All of us here know that the vast majority of Americans live in the real world, and we live in the present day, not in the past. But this risks taking us going all the way back to the 1800s. This Supreme Court ruling is wrong. It is dangerous. It is full of lies, and it revises history. And it could just be one of the beginning for what is to come to roll back civil rights protections for LGBTQ family and friends and our neighbors of color and our immigrant friends. While we are here in Massachusetts and we have strong protections for abortion rights and reproductive rights, we do have an obligation to do everything in our power to protect the other folks in other states that are already at risk of having their liberties taken away from them. In Massachusetts, we still have more work that we can do here, more legislation that we can pass. And it's great that Baker passed the executive order to protect abortion providers, but there's more we can do and must do. We must expand medication abortion, especially on our college campuses. And we must protect the rights of every person who might become pregnant someday. We know that these impacts are going to be here in Massachusetts, but we also need to be open to allowing and welcoming and opening our arms to folks who need to come here from other states. We cannot quit and let the radical, conservative Supreme Court continue to take swipes at our basic freedoms, which force pregnant people to stay in violent partnerships, as Issa described, limit school and career options, and suppress the economic vitality of our families, communities, and our country. I will not let a Supreme Court decision that is wrong, that ignores precedent, and that takes away our civil rights, the exact thing that our courts are meant to protect, dictate my passion, my advocacy, and support of fighting every single day for all of you. Today, we must renew our commitment to protecting abortion care and vow to continue to lead to make sure that everyone, regardless of their background, has access to their civil liberties. I ask you to join me in this fight. Help us get unapologetically pro-choice candidates elected here and throughout the country. Keep rolling up your sleeves and keep doing the work, because we can break from being held hostage by radical Republicans, but we have to work together. We have to build a broad, multicultural, multilingual, multiracial, and gender diverse coalition. We have to see that a threat to anyone is indeed a threat to all of us. We must continue to fight. They expect us to get tired. They expect us to slink away quietly. But will we go back to the 1950s? No! Will we go back to the 1800s? No! I am enraged and engaged. Are you enraged? Yes! Will you stay engaged? Yes! I look forward to staying enraged and engaged with all of you. Thank you so much.
Hi folks, I'm Mayor Kim Driscoll, Mayor in Salem, Massachusetts, a candidate for Lieutenant Governor. And I want to say thank you all for organizing this. Thank the rep for the invitation. And thank you for standing up for what we know is right. You know, I woke up Friday morning and like many of you, I felt like somebody turned the clocks back 50 years. I'm mad as hell. I'm angry. I'm frustrated. I'm scared. I'm hurt that the highest court in the land would strip our rights, setting us back 50 years. But we need to figure out how to channel this fear, this rage, this hurt, this frustration into action. Because we're not going back, not on abortion rights, not on marriage equality, not on access to contraceptives. We can't allow a male-dominated group of state legislators full of people who we don't know, who don't know us, who don't share our values, who don't look like us, be charged with making the decisions for us. So I want you to remember this day. I want you to remember how you're feeling. I want you to remember Election Day. In the case of Massachusetts, it's September 6th and November 8th. Because in overturning a nearly 50-year-old right of women to choose abortion, Justice Alito declared, and I'm going to quote, "It's time to return the issue of abortion to the people's elected representatives." Now, I don't agree that constitutional freedom should be voted on, whether we're talking about abortion rights, gay rights, civil rights, human rights, marriage equality, and the list goes on. But if an extreme right, radical faction of the Supreme Court is going to continue to strip our rights and push freedoms that we have had for 50 years to states to make the decisions, then I say we need to get out and vote. So remember how you're feeling today on Election Day. This fall, show up, registered, and ready to vote, because we're not going back. Our decisions in the voting booth are what is going to make sure we're not going back. So say it with me. Our bodies Our choice. Our bodies. Our choice. Hold up your signs. We're not going back. We're here. Election Day, September 6th. We need all of you to stand up for our pro-choice candidates, folks who are going to put our values at work, not just here in Massachusetts, but across this country. There's something we all can do, whether it's here, making calls, going to other places, making sure that we are that beacon, that we are a sanctuary state from women from other states. That's what I pledge to do for you, not only as mayor, but as lieutenant governor. These are important times. We've got work to do. I'm here to do it with you. Yes. My body, my body, my choice. Let's do this, Massachusetts.
Well, hello, everybody. I want to introduce myself. I'm from far away. My name is State Senator Eric Lesser. I'm a candidate for Lieutenant Governor. I come from Longmeadow, about 100 miles west of here. And I want to thank Rep. Howard because when she called me to say this was going on, we dropped what we were doing. We got in the car. We drove here as fast as possible to show unity across our state, from Western Mass to Eastern Mass, from the North Shore all the way down to the Cape and across our Commonwealth. We are going to speak with one voice that despite and in spite of what happened in Washington, D.C., yes, abortion today remains legal and safe in Massachusetts, but we have a lot more to do because we know what's coming. We know what's going to come from Congress. We know what's going to continue to come from the Supreme Court because they said it. They put it in the opinion. Now, I'm proud to have been an original co-sponsor from the day it was written, alongside Harriet Chandler in the state Senate, to get the Roe Act passed in Massachusetts. And think back to when that fight was going on. Jamie was a big part of it. So many of us here, I see a lot of familiar faces, were a big part of it. A lot of people told all of us, hey, we don't need that. You have Roe v. Wade. You don't need the Roe Act in Massachusetts. It's not necessary. We said we need to pass it because we see what's happening. Because the Republicans were telling us what they were going to do if and when they got power. And then, despite the pressure, and it failed several sessions, we got it passed, and then the governor vetoed it. And there were a lot of people, yeah, we should boo that. Yes, we should boo that. Because a lot of people said, water it down. Water it down. He said he was going to sign certain parts but veto other parts. Water it down. We said no. All of you said no. And we overrode his veto. We overrode his veto. And you know something? It's a good thing. Can you imagine if us in Massachusetts right now were facing what we were facing on Friday morning without the Roe Act? But we need to do a lot more than the Roe Act. Right now, there is a bill pending. We voted on it in the Senate a few weeks ago to shield medical providers here in Massachusetts that provide care to people from out of state, to help support and fund gender-affirming care for people who need health care across our state. We need to get that passed immediately. And you know what? If Governor Baker vetoes it, we need to override it immediately. And we need to let our leaders at the State House know that. Moving forward as Lieutenant Governor, here's just a couple of things I propose that we do. First of all, we need to continue to increase funding for our reproductive health care. We need to solve the deserts we have around healthcare access. I'm from Western Mass. There are huge parts of our state where there is no easy access to reproductive health care at all, especially in rural communities and in communities of color. We need to be intentional about funding and supporting and placing services where they are needed the most. We need to expand and make clear that the executive order that was signed, and I do give Governor Baker credit for that executive order, it needs to be enshrined in our laws and it needs to be passed into statute right away. And then there's a final thing we need to do, and this is going to be a longer fight. It's going to take about 4 years. We need a constitutional amendment for our state constitution protecting reproductive rights, right alongside those fundamental rights that are already in our Constitution: freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. Reproductive rights need to be enumerated right in there, right alongside those, because we know what they're going to do. They've already said again and again that they're going to pass a federal ban on abortion in Congress. If or when that happens, God forbid, we need every possible protection in our state, and that includes enshrining it in our Constitution. That is the ultimate step we can take to protect that right. And it's especially important when you look at what the Thomas language said. They're going to wipe out substantive due process. We need to do this for all of our fundamental rights that are now being threatened on a key level. So I just want to thank you all for welcoming me. Guy from Western Mass, I'm out here to show Lowell, to tell Lowell, we stand united in making sure that we protect this fundamental right, not just today, not just tomorrow, but for our children and our children's children here in Massachusetts and across the country. Thank you so much.
Give it up for all three of our Democratic candidates for Lieutenant Governor. Thank you for standing with us. We know it's hot. We wanted to get you out of here as close to 6 as possible. It's almost that time. We have just 3 more speakers. There is still water left. If you are feeling faint and dehydrated, please hydrate. So I'm going to turn over to our next speaker. She is a candidate, a Democratic candidate for State Representative in nearby Billerica, Teresa English.
My name's Teresa English. I'm a mom, a teacher, and a veteran. I'm from Billerica. I chose Billerica as my town to move to Massachusetts from. I moved from Georgia. After the 2016 election, a lot of us saw what was happening, what was in the works. And there's a huge culture of white supremacy that is behind all of these abortion laws, LGBTQ restrictions and bans. We need to do a better job of listening to the folks who have been disenfranchised since the very beginning of this country, since before 1776 with the Declaration of Independence. Who's independent? I don't feel independent right now. I don't feel like I have all of my rights because I don't. We need to talk to every single person we know. Your grandmother, your great-grandmother, the people you play bingo with. There are tons of individuals who worked to make sure that Roe was passed or was enacted in 1973, right? They're largely checked out. They're playing bingo. They're with their friends at the senior center. They're watching Home Network, right? Home TV Network. And they're not engaged, but they would be as pissed as we are if we reach out to them. I'm gonna leave you with one of my favorite quotes. It's from Josephine St. Pierre Ruffin. She says, "If laws are unjust, they must be continually broken until they are killed or altered." I think there's some laws that need to be killed or altered.
Thank you, Teresa. Up next, we have Brad Butenheist, the founder of the Lowell Litter Crew. Brad.
Neil Gorsuch, during his confirmation hearings in 2017, said that Roe v. Wade was, quote, a precedent of the U.S. Supreme Court. It was reaffirmed in Casey in 1992 and in several other cases. So a good judge will consider it as precedent of the U.S. Supreme Court, worthy as treatment of precedent like any other, end quote. In 2018, Brett Kavanaugh referred to Roe as settled law that should not be overturned without strong reason during his hearings. Liar. They lied to us. Clarence Thomas argued, in his concurring opinion in this case, that justices, quote, should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedents, including Griswold, Lawrence, and Obergefell, end quote. Rulings that protect contraception, same-sex relationships, and same-sex marriage. Yes, Clarence, whose wife Ginny emailed 29 Arizona state lawmakers with unsubstantiated claims of voter fraud in attempts to overturn the state's decision in favor of President Joe Biden. This is not about stopping abortion, but about control and power. Power that moves wealth to the upper class at a faster rate than we have ever seen in this nation. Power that keeps the working class desperate and submissive. Power that makes the new American dream to lead.
Yes.
Any reason a woman chooses to have an abortion is a valid one. And we are here today to take that power back. While Christian nationalism is a public health crisis, it is critical that we do not vilify our neighbors because of this decision. Instead, we must turn to our friends on the other side of the aisle and remind them that the people they love have had abortions. 1 in 50 pregnancies are ectopic and cannot result in a baby. And we do not have the technology to move a fetus implanted in the fallopian tubes to the uterus. Bleeding from ectopic pregnancy is the leading cause of first trimester maternal death. Abortion in this case and many other critically medically necessary procedures is how the lives of our mothers, our sisters, our closest friends are saved. The only moral abortion isn't and cannot be my abortion. I challenge any leaders listening who support ending abortion without consideration for the cause and danger of each case to stand behind their beliefs and show us that you really do care about children.
Right.
Start building the orphanages. Start funding education. Make an investment into the future of this country. Because if you can't do that, it will be clear to all of us that making America a poorly educated, unsupported, failed capitalist state was your goal all along. To all of you, the challenge is bringing your friends to the polls this September and November so we can have fewer leaders who will not inevitably disappoint us. My name is Brad Butenhuis. I'm a straight white male who is afraid for the future of this country.
Thank you, Brad. Slight change of plans. We are going to hear 2 very quick words from 2 additional speakers. Both are candidates for state representative here in Lowell. And then we will, I promise, conclude the program. But before I turn it over, I do want to just acknowledge, we won't have time to hear from them today, but I do want to acknowledge 2 of our sitting city councilors who are here in solidarity with us today, Wayne Janess. So now I will turn it over to Zoe Zanuck, candidate for state representative.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Zoe Zanuck, is the American way, but the African way, where I am from, is Chineku. Just that. I'm standing here today to introduce myself as a candidate for the 16th Middlesex District State Representative office. And I'm standing here today to also introduce myself as your pro-choice candidate. I'm gonna keep it very, very short because my illustrious speakers before me have already said all of the statistics, how absolutely ridiculous this ruling is, and everything else. The only thing I have to tell you guys, as your potential next state rep, not on my watch. Not on my watch. It's enough. It's enough. Let's keep going forward, and we are not going to go backwards.
Thank you, Zoe. Tara.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for the host for get this event going, and thank you all of you for showing up to support abortion in our country. As an immigrant from Cambodia, as a candidate for state representative in the 18th Middlesex District, this ruling is bullshit. Woman should have the right to do whatever she wants to her own body. No man, no white man, no anyone can have the say to control that she can do this, because the person who create the baby is guy. Why the hell guy come up from no? Why senator? That's a man, first of all, or Supreme Court justice rule against abortion. This discussion, this issue shouldn't be a thing that we have to talk or discuss about. Women have the right to choose whatever she wants to do to her own body. And as a candidate for state representative for the 18 Middlesex District, I support abortion. As a pro-choice candidate for this position, I support abortion and support every woman's right to do whatever she wants. And I will promise you all that if I got elected to be this position this year, I will stand up and continue to speak up against this issue until this issue shouldn't be a thing. No one should talk about this because it's women's right, and women should have the right to do whatever she wants to her own body. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Zoe and Tara. Up next, our final speaker before we close it out is Allison Lovering, a Lowell resident and poet, here to share some of her thoughts in the form of poetry as a result of Friday's decision.
Thank you guys so much for being here. I have a short intro to this poem, and that is the fact that I am a woman, I am an LGBTQ community member, I am a rape victim, and I am a human. But mostly, I am outraged. And if you are outraged too, and you are feeling alone, hopefully this poem will help you know you are not alone. Fear runs through the air faster than the virus that shut down the world. My heart goes out to those feeling unfurled, because I too am uncurling from this unnerving change. Isn't it strange that corpses dead and gone have a right to belong, untouched without permission, when us women must forfeit our bodies? I must need a lobotomy, because all of those in the wretched lobby have more to say to our bodily autonomy than those that live inside that vessel. If justice was a muscle, it would be an atrophy. After this atrocity, I can say with ease that it isn't a woman's issue. Now that the strength is gone from America's tissue, the world should be enraged. What other rights will become estranged, and who else will they go after? I need a memory catheter to drain me of the poison in my brain, for you all should feel the same pain in this matter of human rights. So join me in the fight of this plight, made up by those in power to keep people in poverty. It bothers me that a dead body, no longer speaking, has more voice, more choice than I will in mourning of Roe versus Wade.
I'm sorry, I keep lying to you. There's one more speaker, and I cringe even saying that out loud, but we do want to make sure you get to hear from your current and potential elected officials so you can make sure that you are voting for pro-choice candidates. So we have one more speaker, running for State Representative Rodney Elliott.
I will be as brief as possible. I just came here to support you and the effort and to continue to wage the war against this decision. I'm the father of 2 daughters, of 3 granddaughters. I'm the brother of 5 sisters. So I am here to support you. I don't want to talk to all the points have been made. I've been a city councilor for 24 years. I've been the mayor of this great city. So thank you for listening to me. I will be your pro-choice candidate as well. No one belongs. I should not be making a decision about women's bodies. That's how I feel. Thank you for a few minutes to say hello. Thank you.
All right, so Representative Howard is going to close us out in 1 second, but before we do that, I want to make sure you heard loud and clear what some of the takeaways were from today. Many of our speakers already highlighted them. One is that you can help ensure the Healthy Youth Act passes this legislative session, first introduced in 2011. We're done waiting. We need comprehensive inclusive sex ed in Massachusetts. The second thing you can do is co-sign Reproductive Equity Now's campaign for Massachusetts Beyond Roe agenda. There is a whole slew of actions that Massachusetts can take within this agenda to protect the right to abortion in our state, many of which Senator Lesser mentioned in his speech. So co-sign that, join the fight. The third thing is to donate to abortion funds. This helps ensure that women seeking abortions have funds to be able to afford the procedure and funds to afford travel if their state has made abortion illegal. So please do what you can to support abortion funds. This QR code goes to a donation page that splits donations among all of the abortion funds across the entire country. And the fourth thing, which you heard from many candidates today, is to vote. Pull out your phones, yes. Pull out your phones, save 2 dates. Our state primary is September 6th. It is the Tuesday after Labor Day, a tough, tough day. Request an absentee ballot, early vote, do what you need to do to make sure your voice is heard in your primary. Whoever wins the primary gets on the general election ballot, so save that date as well. It's November 8th. Show up, vote both times. Make sure every candidate you're voting for up and down the ballot is exclusively and loudly, proudly pro-choice. Those are your 4 actions. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Jamie. Claps. Please give another round of applause to Jamie. Thank you again to everyone for being here tonight in this heat, because you know this important is very, very important to you all. That's why you are here. So give yourself a round of applause as well. Like Jamie said, it's very important that you vote in September and November and every other month, every year in between. So vote, vote, vote. So don't let this end tonight. This energy has to continue until our rights have been reclaimed. Thank you again to all and have a good night.